Okay.
So it looks like we have 3 additional participants, and hopefully more will join us as we move along. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to those of you joining us. This is the first time we're attempting to do something like this, where we're co-hosting a workshop, and especially with the presenters being in 2 different locations. So my name is Greg Armelin. I am the Assistant Director for Study Abroad here at Merced, and I do some advising. I'm also very enthusiastic about students trying to connect and find resources to help make study abroad much more affordable. Sorry, my lights just went out because I was sitting still too long. But today, I'm actually going to be passing most of my presentation off to my colleague at STA Travel, Christine Lidstone-Sweet, who will be presenting from STA Travel, which is an affiliated travel provider with the University of California. So they have kind of a special privileged connection to the university and to the UC Education Abroad program. And so, so I will allow her to introduce herself, and then I want to take care of a couple more housekeeping items before we launch into the presentation.
Thank
So
you.
go ahead and introduce yourself, Christine, and
sure.
And then I'll take care of a couple more things before we get started.
All right, thank you, Craig. Hello, everybody. My name is Christine, and I work for STA Travel. I am currently at home in Laguna Beach, California today, and where it's very June gloomy and overcast and cold. And yeah, I will talk a little bit more about our partnership with the University of California in a few minutes and some of the benefits of that for UC students. And yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Okay, just a couple more housekeeping items before we launch into the presentation. First of all, I want you all to be aware that this webinar is being recorded. You should be entering in muted mode as you join the webinar, but we are recording it for students to be able to view on demand. If you have questions, you're welcome to chat those questions, and assuming that we don't cover that content before we reach the end, we should be able to address those, so you can chat those questions as they come to mind for you without necessarily interrupting the flow of the presentation. At the same time that we address those questions at the end, we'll also be able to unmute you and allow you to ask those questions audibly if you prefer. But I do want you to be aware that, that we are recording this session for students to be able to view at a later point. But again, thank you, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and I'll let Christine launch into the presentation.
All right, thank you. Yeah, this presentation is about 15 minutes long, and then I'm free to answer and talk with as many questions that come up over the next 15 minutes. So very briefly, I will introduce you to who STA Travel is. We are the largest student and youth travel provider in the world. We are on the ground in over 100 countries. So I don't know where you're going abroad, but if you're going to Europe, South Africa, Australia, we have many retail locations on the continent and in those countries. And in the rest of the world, many people still walk in and use a travel agency and talk to a travel agent. And you can do that in many places around the world. And if you look at our website, you can see where we are. Our global headquarters are in London in the UK. And in the US, we are headquartered, actually, we just moved to Tempe, Arizona. So we're almost on campus at ASU. But we kind of help everyone in the US through our call center and through our website. And we do have a dedicated landing page for the University of California, which I'll talk about in a minute as well. We are 24/7, 365. So we're always open in Tempe. And that is for travel help. So if you book through us and you have an issue, you have a problem, you need to talk to somebody, you have more questions, you can just call anytime and talk to one of our agents. And our agents, there's about 60 of them in our Tempe office. They are, most of them are recent ASU grads. They are all very passionate about traveling and studying abroad in particular, and very helpful and very happy to help. And we have been a partner of the University of California since 2010. And as part of that partnership, we're very proud of that partnership. We work with all 10 of the UC campuses. And for every University of California student who books through STA Travel, we do have a scholarship, a pay-it-forward scholarship program that we contribute $10 to for each UC student who books through us. And I also like to mention that you are automatically enrolled in UC Trips. Is that what you call it at Merced, Craig? UC Trips? It's different.
I'm not familiar with it. You're talking about the trip insurance program?
Yeah, the travel insurance program.
I think here we refer to it as UC Trip Insurance.
UC Trip Insurance, which is one of the most comprehensive, amazing insurance programs. They take very good care of you. When you book through us, we just automatically register you in that program. You should always check with your study abroad office and with Craig and his team and make sure everything's gone through correctly, but that's something we also help with as well. So we are a student and youth travel agency. So we focus on student and youth travelers. Students tend to travel for longer. They change their mind a lot and want to stay longer or come home earlier, usually stay longer. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But we also issue the ISIC card, which is the International Student Identity Card. It's a really helpful ID card with a lot of discounts abroad. It costs $25 per year. So depending on where you're going, it can really come in handy and pay for itself. And we always recommend looking that up and seeing if it will help you get discounts where you're going. We also sell rail passes. We can help with hostels and hotels if you want to extend your trip at all, or you need a night when you first arrive. We do volunteer programs, tours, and of course we have our travel help, our 365 travel help. So, which is very key thing that we offer, especially to UC travelers. We have a product called the BLUETICKET. That is a student ticket. So those are only available to students and youth. If you go on Kayak and you're looking for flights, we are on Kayak, but you have to get linked through to STA Travel to get one of our flights. But most of those are just fares that are available to the whole public. If you want to look at what a student ticket can offer you, you definitely need to do a little bit more digging online. And you can look at statravel.com. There's another student travel provider in the US market, Student Universe. We have very comparable airline services. We have exclusive fares on over 60 airlines. So it's definitely worth looking into and seeing what the options are. And just making sure, like what I like to say about student trip tickets is they're not necessarily going to be cheaper because it is a very competitive market out there. We know what the price of a ticket from San Francisco to London is. But with a student fare, you will get other student terms and conditions that might help you, like making changes, helping you have more economical change penalties or having a refund, being able to get a refund on your ticket if you change your mind. There's also multi-stop tickets. I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in a minute. So definitely, I really encourage you to look into a student fare for your trip and where you're going. We do have a price beat guarantee at STA. I always like to mention it, but if you find something cheaper, let us know and we will match it and offer you a student fare for it. We shop every day. We know what the prices are. They're usually all comparable, but we always like to know if someone's beating us in something and we can try and match that price. One of our most popular programs for students is the Book Now, Pay Later program. So I am not sure when you guys are leaving, but we always say it is cheaper to buy your ticket earlier. The earlier, the better. So as soon as you know you have been confirmed on your program, you need to start looking into buying a ticket and finding out what the fare is looking like. As we get closer to departure, especially for summer in Europe, summer is high season for the US market. Prices are only going to go up and get more expensive. So the Book Now, Pay Later program enables you to make a deposit on your ticket, and you don't have to make full payment on your ticket until 7 days before you leave. So we kind of developed this in partnership with the University of California when we realized students weren't getting their financial aid disbursements until right before they were leaving on their trip. And a student would call and say, okay, I need to go to Beijing next week. And, they were paying absolute premium costs for their tickets. So the Book Now, Pay Later program enables you to make a deposit. It's usually $300 on your flight, and you don't have to make full payment until 7 days before departure. It is not available on every route, on every flight. It depends. It's somewhat limited availability, but the earlier you book, the more likely you'll have an option to do the Book Now, Pay Later program. And you make the deposit, and there's no interest, there's no hidden fees. That deposit is applied to the cost of your tickets. So it is non-refundable, but we have sold thousands and thousands and thousands of tickets through Book Now, Pay Later, and students always pay. They always use it, and they always pay. We only had one who didn't.
Can I interject something in here real quick?
Yes.
Just for our students? Because it takes a little bit of time for your electronic funds transfer to come over, it can be closer to 4 days before the program begins that you get your disbursement. Of course, you should know well in advance what your disbursement is going to look like after you meet with financial aid. For many students, that's actually this week or this past week. But to bridge that gap, you have options, whether it's to put it on a credit card and immediately pay off that credit card in the grace period in that interim period. Otherwise, for some students, it's simply you book maybe 2-3 months in advance, and then you can save up to reach the remaining balance of your ticket. So it may be that financial aid still takes a little time to come through, or maybe you want to leave a couple extra days early before your program begins, and you may need to pay before you receive that disbursement. And so it'd be more on a reimbursement basis, but it does give you that much more flexibility and grant that much more access to students if they need it.
Exactly. And we have a lot of students who call and pay week by week, just make a small payment every week until it's paid off, or however is best for the students. Because this is a big part of your study abroad. It's expensive. And we want to help you to figure out a way to pay for it. So, and we take multiple credit cards, whatever, whatever it takes. And then our 24/7 travel help, which I think I've already talked about. But okay, so you are ready to book your trips. You've been confirmed. That's the first question we always ask: is your program confirmed? Are you 100% going? Are the dates locked in? And you really have to be careful about the dates that your program starts. When you travel to Europe, you lose a day. So if your program starts on the 24th, you can't leave on the 23rd. If you're going west, you gain a day. So you really need to look at when do you need to be on the ground for your first orientation, or when do you need to check into your housing, and then we can go back from there and figure out exactly when you need to leave. We always recommend, and I think I've already mentioned this, looking for student airfare pricing. Just want to make students aware that that is an option available to them. Book early. I think I've already mentioned that enough times. Consider an open jaw and get creative with your routing. So if you are planning on doing some traveling after your trip, you could, if you're doing a program in London, but you want to travel and spend maybe 2 weeks in Europe afterwards, you could do an open jaw. It would take a little bit of planning on your end, but figure out where you want to probably end up if you want to end up in Barcelona. And you could do a flight into London and out of Barcelona. And then once you get on the ground in London, you can figure out how you're going to get to Barcelona. There's also options like that in Australia. That are really good options in Europe. And so that kind of, it's just think about what you're going to do after. A lot of students call us and say, my program ends on the 28th, so I'm going to come home on the 29th. And we're always like, wait, think about it. You're going to want to stay for a couple days and digest what you've just been through. And 99% of the time students call us because they want to stay longer. They rarely want to come home early. They always want to stay longer because they're having the best time, and it's hard to come home and leave such an amazing experience. So, that's why flexibility is really important in student tickets, and you need to think about that before you buy your ticket. if you're going to need that flexibility. Always, wherever you buy your ticket, look at the change and cancellation penalties no matter what's happening. You might need to be home on a certain day, so you think, but then things might change and you might have to come home early. So just really have a look at that and consider it. Free stopovers are really good options for the South Pacific. So I'm not sure if anyone here is doing any South Pacific programs, but we do, like with Qantas, we have a free stop in Fiji. So you could do it on your way there or your way back. Emirates Airlines, who they're based in Dubai, and they really try and encourage people to visit Dubai. So they have a free stopover in Dubai, and they actually provide you with a hotel as well. It's not really convenient to go through Dubai to get to most places, but they're just trying to kind of entice people to use Emirates more. And they are a pretty incredible airline in terms of their economy product and the luxury, but that's another story. And flying on Monday through Thursday can be less expensive. That's kind of like an urban myth, but it's absolutely true. That you could might be able to save some money if you travel Monday through Thursday, if that's an option. Things to definitely look out for when you're booking online, wherever you're booking. These are things to just make sure of and be aware. Avoid mixed carrier tickets. So that means sometimes you look online and you see two different airlines kind of join together to get you somewhere. So maybe a San Francisco to New York on one airline, and then New York to Madrid on another airline. And it's super cheap. It might be those airlines aren't working together. The online booking engines are smarter than we are in a lot of ways, and they're finding this super cheap flight. But if you buy that ticket, you may have to pay your baggage fees twice. You may not be the airline that you're connecting in New York through may not take care of you if you're delayed on your feeder flight into New York. So we always encourage people to avoid using mixed carrier tickets. It's okay if on the way there you use one and on the way back. If that's going to work out, that would be okay, but not joining two airlines to get you somewhere. Cheaper is not always better. So kind of the example I just used, where you might have a New York stopover for 12 hours, and you end up spending $100 at the airport in New York on food and whatever, you're not really ending up saving any money on your ticket overall. Also with mixed carrier tickets, one thing to look out for in Europe and New York, there's several airports in some cities. So New York has JFK, LaGuardia. Newark, sometimes they join different airports together, and then you have to get from one to the other, and that's extremely expensive. Same for London. There's 4 airports in London. And some of the smaller online airlines that are super cheap do not fly out of Heathrow. So definitely, look at the total cost and incorporate cost of what you're going to spend when you're at the airport, waiting or moving around a city. Always look very closely at your total travel times and the itinerary. This happens to all of us. It's happened to me with Southwest, where I bought a ticket and it was a direct flight, but it wasn't nonstop. So it has a hidden stop. So, there might have been an option I could have taken that maybe was like $10 more and wouldn't have had a stop. It would have saved me an hour and a half of my time. So always look really closely when you're booking something. Like if it looks like it's going to take you way too long to get somewhere, look if there's any hidden stops on the itinerary. And just keep in mind the cost of being in an airport and all those things associated with it. Baggage fees and hidden costs. The airlines have gotten very good at separating out the costs and charging extra whenever they can. And I think we all know that already, especially with baggage. So if you're going to study abroad, you're going to have to check a bag. And you're probably have to be really careful about what you bring and make sure it's not too heavy. And you're probably going to have to pay for it, but you only want to have to pay once. So depending on which airlines you're using, you want to research that and find out what that cost will involve for you. It can get really expensive, especially if your bag is overweight. You really want to be careful and weigh your bag. Get one of those. Maybe you have one in the office, Craig, where people can weigh.
Or you should give some away.
Yeah, totally, because it's super expensive if you go over. And again, and also there's a lot of hidden fees associated with certain airlines, especially in Europe, the low-cost carriers. You have to pay for everything. All you're paying for is just seat on the plane. So you water, any meals, anything. So just really do some research on that kind of stuff, and talk to people or do some research online and figure it out. And again, said it before, we say it many times, only book your flight after your program plans have been finalized and you know exactly when you need to be there, and when you can leave, and then figure out what your plans are after too. I always like to mention that we have an ambassador program. This is just on a side note, but when you get home, especially if you've had an amazing experience, which I know you will, you'll want to talk to people about it and share it. And this is a paid ambassador program. It's it's travel credit and paid. So please, Craig could get you in touch with me if this is something when you get home that you want to look into. And this is our landing page for the University of California. UC Merced has its own tile on there, so click through there, and you can do some searching for fares that way.